Thank you all for such an amazing day. We're going to close today out with a really, if I'm being honest, just reflection. This was supposed to be a session delivered by Dr. Martha Honey, our amazing founder, and I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize her, if we didn't recognize her, and the spirit of the conversation, which is to talk a little bit about the Center for Responsible Travel, CREST. I just want to say real quick that before I make a quick introduction, that the fact that we are here, it was a decision that we had to make, and today it made me really happy. I'm so thankful that all of you are here and that we could. This might have to be shorter than I thought. Okay, so with that said, I'm really excited to introduce. She's already on the stage today, and we introduced her in her capacity as a PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo. But I'm now going to introduce her, and I'm so proud and thankful to introduce Samantha, our amazing, not just board member, but Samantha is as CREST as Martha is, and I just thank you so much for being here and look forward to chatting you a little bit about the impact that the organization has had through the years. So everybody, please put your hands together for Sam. So Sam, let's go back to the start. You got involved with CREST quite a while ago. Tell me how you found out about this organization and why you got involved with the organization.
Yeah, so I got into the tourism space because of Jonathan Tortolo, who, along with Martha Honey, have really influenced the trajectory of my career. And I did my master's at George Washington University, so another plug for any type of education you can do with them at GW. They're doing really practical, applicable work. Highly recommend. I got involved because in Washington, D.C., we were very, very lucky to be in the backyard of many incredible organizations that were doing work that I didn't know was possible, coming from rural farm country in mid-Missouri. And Martha was a speaker in our class, and I was just blown away by her because she approached tourism as an industry that needed the academic rigor and reflection behind it that agriculture and oil and all of the other industries really needed. And a lot of the data that was produced by mass tourism comes from the big companies. They might be funding it, and it might look like it's coming from somewhere else, but in reality, there weren't a lot of third-party sort of watchdogs looking at this data and trying to figure out the root problems that were really manifesting in various ways, like over-tourism and destinations. So Martha and Professor Bill Durham at Stanford University co-founded CREST with Stanford having an office and then an office in Washington, D.C. in 2003 after the International Year of Ecotourism. And in 2015, the professor at Stanford retired, Bill Durham retired, and so we formed this academic affiliates network to try to reach more broadly beyond just Stanford. And Martha is unfailingly pure. She will not be swayed. She gets to the crux of a problem and was a journalist. She worked in Central America and Tanzania prior to entering the world of tourism and saw how tourism could be a force for good or a force for bad. And she really asked difficult questions that not a lot of others were asking at a time when tourism was considered sort of the end-all, be-all, here's what we're going to do to get away from extractive economies, whenever now we all know that tourism is very extractive, just in a very different way.
I love that you brought this up, particularly diving into a little bit about Martha's past. I think she was a storyteller, and I think at the end of the day, as tourism practitioners, industry people, whoever we are in this room, at heart, I think we're all storytellers. Martha was just very, very good at it and an accomplished journalist. And that meant that what she brought to this space was different. It was unique. It was fresh. It was, hate to use the word, bold. It was progressive. And I admire that so much about CREST. I'm curious, through your time with the organization, and you've been involved with CREST in some capacity for quite some time. Tell us about that storytelling arc a little bit, and what CREST accomplished through that storytelling arc.
Yeah, so CREST is very good at storytelling and very bad at storytelling. We've always been very bad at telling our own story, which is sort of why we're in the current predicament we're in. And this is probably the first time you've ever seen us talk about CREST at a conference, and that's because we always try to give others a platform to tell their stories. So we've never really told ours. When we work with communities, it was what I was talking about this morning. It's really about the values of the communities. It's not about tourism. It's about their values and how tourism can help them solve problems or enhance things that are already good that they want to make better. So that was really the narrative, bringing everybody around the table. And Martha liked to use various mediums to do that. We made 3 documentary films. The Goose with the Golden Eggs, Costa Rica, or tourism on Costa Rica's Pacific coast, Travelers Philanthropy, Time, Talent, and Treasure, and then Caribbean Green Travel, Your Choices Make a Difference. And we made them free on our platform. Again, not a sustainable business model, but one that we felt very positively about at the time. We wrote various books. Martha's book, Ecotourism and Sustainable Development, Who Owns Paradise, is foundational literature for anybody studying in this space specifically. We released an annual report called The Case for Responsible Travel, Trends and Statistics, to try to give bite-sized pieces of aggregated information for practitioners to be able to make decisions. And I just feel that the various mediums we tried and reaching various different groups through those were so important. And then when Wes came into this position, I mean, everybody who meets Wes can see how he connects with people. And he's been able to take that storytelling to the next level. And the only reason I felt comfortable leaving CREST to begin pursuing my PhD was because Wes was on board, which isn't really fair to him, because I was like, okay, Wes is here, it's gonna be fine. And I could go away. But our forums have become really, really special ways for people to share their stories. And anybody who talks to Wes at this event can see that this is really where his passion is, to allow those stories to be told. And I'm interested in hearing from you, like, why is this event so important for you? And I know it's not been easy to push it through. Everything was against us in pulling this off, and I would say the same for last year in Atlanta. And somehow he makes it look effortless. But I mean, he's a duck. His feet are swimming a mile a minute underwater. So tell us about this event and why it's so important to you.
Thank you, Jill, first and foremost. I can talk about why it's important, but if it was not for Jill pushing us to have this event here, we wouldn't have done it. I can say why it's important to me, and it's very important to me, but I have to give 99.999% of the credit to Jill. So, thank you, Jill. This event, and I talk about this a lot. I don't have a connection to an organization like other people do. I think that organizations are vehicles for good or bad people to do work, and CREST is a place where I think a lot of really, really great people have actually done the work, and that's what first drew me to the organization. I don't have a background in tourism. I do a little bit prior to CREST, but not my entire career. I come from an international development, human rights background. So working in tourism, I'm a little radical in how I think. I had a conference on tourism, justice, and peace last year. It's not really a standard thing to have a conference about. CREST was the only organization that I felt like would actually allow me to be myself in that work. And for all of its flaws and its inability to tell stories about itself and toot its own horn, CREST was a place where everybody I knew was rigorous. They did the work. If they were doing a consulting project with a destination, if they were working with a private sector partner, if they were doing a training or capacity building, if they were doing in-house research, CREST was working to build educational opportunities for youth, of which it's done many. CREST always did the work. And I am to the end, this organization has done the work, and we've never sacrificed that. And so this event, more than anything, is about doing the work. And doing the work requires you to think outside the box. It requires you to bring different people together from different sectors. We heard today from housing people, all of whom hate tourism. and that's important for us to hear, and I say that with the utmost respect. That is important for us to hear, because tourism always thinks that tourism has the answers to problem in tourism, and we don't. It is intersectional. It is a place, it is a space that requires us to narrow things down and work with other people. And that's what this event is about to me. That's what it was about last year in Atlanta. It was about, selfishly, I lived there, so it was a little easier, if I'm being honest. But it was about bringing in stakeholders that wouldn't normally be at a tourism conference, that aren't normally in front of tourism stakeholders. And this year, we tried to do the same thing in a place that an organization that is going out of business has no business being on Cape Cod. But here we are, and we are here because we want to have those kind of conversations, and because we take risks. We take risks and we succeed. We took risks and we failed, and that's okay. And I'm super proud of that. And I think this event is the perfect example of how we succeeded in bringing people together and different perspectives together. And it's a difficult time, not just for us. It's a difficult time for nonprofits. It's a difficult time for tourism destinations and businesses. But what we all have is a really amazing community, and a community of people we can continue to build together. So that's my response to, I don't know what your question was.
Well, I was going to ask you about intersectionality, so you answered that too.
So where do we go from here? And I don't mean as CREST. Where does this work go from here? And I think it's the question that we all ask, and it's kind of the purpose of the conference.
Yeah, that's a great question. And to start, I'll go back to one of the most foundational programs we had at CREST, and that was our internship program. I worked for CREST for 8 years and had over 50 interns during that time. And I made a learning contract with each one of them of what they wanted to get out of their internship, academically, personally, and professionally, and really put a lot of energy into that program. And I did that because I was an intern and people invested in me. And I just want to really highlight how important it is to offer those opportunities to the young people in whatever space in which you're working possibly is. I received 3 scholarships through Tourism Cares when I was in undergrad and graduate school, and I was able to attend the NTA annual convention and shadow a business that was there on the trade show floor, and that was transformational to me, to be able to just watch, to witness these conversations, and to be able to have an internship funded through the American Society of Travel Agents, now advisors, and through the National Tour Association. And I did an internship with Jonathan Tortolo when he was with National Geographic Center for Sustainable Destinations. And it was just transformational to me as a student to have someone care, to share their knowledge with me. And now I'm doing what I'm doing, and I hope to have impact far beyond. So in terms of where we go from here, I mean, we have to get the young people in the room and their voices in these conversations and show them that we value their perspective and their opinion, and find avenues to connect with them, even though it can be really uncomfortable to figure out how to meet them in their space. But if we have younger people working for our organizations, hopefully that won't be so hard to overcome. And I really feel that we really need to switch our mindset away from tourism to communities. One of the challenges CREST always had, still has, is framing funding proposals, because once someone hears, oh, you do tourism, we're not funding that. Like, you can figure out funding some other way. It's not about tourism, it's about the environment, it's about culture, it's about societies, and figuring out how to frame the work with tourism being a tool for the outcomes that you hope to achieve for these greater purposes, but getting away from tourism itself being the end-all be-all. And I think that's especially important in the current funding climate that we're in.
Couldn't agree more.
What about you?
Oh. I think that in tourism, we like to run in circles. We like to use a lot of jargon, a lot of acronyms. But I think what we all have is a sense of adventure, and that's why we do this work. And I think we need to leverage that sense of adventure to look for bold solutions that are outside of our normal spheres of influence. And I think we've heard from a lot of people today. We'll hear from some more incredible speakers tomorrow that have innovative ideas and are doing just that. And there's so many inspiring people in this room. But I just can't emphasize enough that we have to stop being hamsters on a wheel. And I feel like we do that oftentimes. So I think where we go from here is threats are bigger than ever before. They're greater. They're more complex. Challenges are significant. But I think we have to bring in stakeholders from different sectors and continue being intersectional. I think that has to happen. And I think we have to continue, going back to what I said a minute ago, continue to do the work with rigor. I think that we can't provide surface level solutions to problems that are massive, and we have to continue to do the work with rigor. And it's hard, it's underfunded, and it's unappreciated oftentimes. But I think that we have to continue to do the work. And I think the last thing I'll say is we have to put pressure on the bigger stakeholders in tourism. I think that sometimes we're wimps about putting pressure on some of the stakeholders that have the ability and the resources to affect change. And I think we have to put more pressure on them. And yes, we always meet them where they are, but I think they need to meet us a little bit closer to where we are in this room. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Our breakout session, we talked a lot about grassroots movements and how that's really how you can put pressure on the bigger entities and the government policymakers and so forth. Just a group of concerned citizens. Just talk to people, and you might find there are a lot more people who have the same concerns you do. And how can you organize yourself in a way to have a bigger voice to influence? And there are going to be doors slammed in our faces. That's, pretty common for probably all of us in this room. But that's okay. Just keep showing up and keep doing the work. Building intersectional initiatives is slow and it's draining, and it can feel like you're making no progress at all, but you are. And I encourage you to keep doing that work, because there are people watching you who are inspired by what you're doing, and they need you. Your communities need you. So it's often thankless, and you're often seen as part of the problem, not seen as coming to the table in good faith to help bring solutions. But, inviting those uncomfortable conversations, like the housing panel was fantastic today, and I learned a lot that I never would have in a normal tourism siloed conference. So encouraging those uncomfortable conversations and getting out of our comfort zones in the tourism silo, I think is where we have to go next. And I'm really inspired by the stewardship mentality that's really sort of coming more to the surface in the industry. And I really am excited about where that's going to go and what we can do with that.
Totally agree. Any last comments, Sam?
I just want to say thank you to everyone in the CREST family who's here. We have Kimberly Daly, our board chair, in the back. Hi, Kimberly. Please meet her while you're here. Jill, of course, has worked with CREST for many, many years. We've worked a lot with Julie Reagan from Tahoe. The Big Bay team, of course, is here. Apollonia was an intern with CREST, and she came all the way from Greece to be here. So if you want to talk about tourism on Greece, she's your person to go to. Mike Robbins is here, though I don't see him. He didn't get in until 3:30 this morning, so maybe he's asleep somewhere. But he was on the CREST board for 10 years. He came down from Canada and braved the scary immigration to get here and go home. So CREST is really built around people and community, and we just want to thank you all for being here and supporting the stream that we have, and know that we're going to continue on our journeys and sprinkle our CREST stardust in all the other places we go from here.
Thank you.
Good. Now go have a cocktail.